how tech in the classroom can transform engineering colleges and learning, because we see the tech is moving really fast compared to the academic world. And how do you see this tech evolving into the classroom, and how is this going to enhance or improve the education?
Like with all the explosion of online, you think if I have Coursera, if I have all the other online resources, why do I need a teacher, right? I think it's quickly there's a realization that like there's no substitute for a structured program. See, often we need some regiment, right? When you do self-paced learning through any of the online resources, it's not regimented. It's very, very self-driven. There's a lot of peer motivation that happens in the classroom. When I'm in a class, I'm part of a group of 40, 50, 60 peers. There's a schedule, there's a program. So there's no substitute for in-class. I think it will not go away anytime soon. It should not go away also. It's a very personal teaching. And if you extend the logic further, it's all about the teacher and the content, right? Yes, tools help. I mean, there are all the online, we use Moodle. So we use, everything is on Moodle. And we use PowerPoint slides as much as possible. I come from the tech industry, right? I have slides for my lectures, but I never use slides in the class. I use the blackboard. There's a connect. I feel a connect between when I teach, and like I also have a very interactive teaching style. I don't write anything and explain. I ask, and based on the answers, I write on the board. Okay. I have something in mind for that day. But most of it, the board gets filled up based on what I ask and what they tell. Now for that conversation, there's no substitute for a blackboard. And so I struggled online. I did use tablets and such like, but it was a very, nowhere close to my natural rhythm was getting badly affected those 1.5 years. And so there is technology. I mean, like you have all the tools, you have authoring tools, you have your online content tools, we used anti-plagiarism tools, follow submissions. Many of our assignments are auto. I mean, we have a very strong TA culture in IIIT. Students are TAs for the course. I mean, one of my largest courses, I have 13 TAs that help. So, of course, they're all students themselves, right? And techies, so they want to build a lot of the assignments, automated assessments, right? You just submit a harness runs in a harness and then they score it. So we use technology, but I'm saying it's still a supplementary tool at some level, enabling. If it's not there, it's still not so bad. It's the teacher-student connect that's the prime thing in a classroom, right? And if that is not there, tools are all supplementary, right? And if your core is not there, then it's a multiplier by zero effect, right? If there's no core, all the tools can only amplify what is not already there. Only when something is there, you can amplify. When nothing is there, what is it amplify? Right? So tools are necessary, but the primary thing is the teacher-student connect in a classroom.
Is this projectized learning or the practical hands-on experience will help the students, right? Like, is it because the IIIT is getting the cream of students, or is it if this kind of methodology is given to every tier 1, 2, 3, 4, will that be enhancing their education? Your take on that?
So, yes, of course, we do get very good quality students. Today, for our 5-year program, we don't use JEE, but when we're using JEE, for the 4-year program, CS cutoff maybe is around 1,000, 1,200 or so. 5-year program also used to be around 2,500. But we believe when we're coming in there in the top 2,500, going out, they're definitely the top 500 in the country, for sure. And we don't talk about the placement numbers, but that's an indicator. We don't talk about it because already like at least half of the batch joins just for a job. And they're already obsessed. I mean, like today, our students are coming in next week. So in the induction, parents, a lot of questions are about jobs. And knowing fully well IIIT has very good placements. And still they're worried. And like, so we don't want to fuel the placement thing, so we don't talk about our placements at all. But we know they're coming in top 2,500, going out there maybe in the top 500, 600, 700, for sure. The delta comes about in the research-based model. We're a research university primarily. Very few know that. I mean, unlike IITs, IIITs don't have a common model. The old 14 IIITs and the new 20 are a common model, but the old 14, amongst the 14, there are some 5-6 different models, including pure private. And but we and us and IIIT Delhi are the ones that are very primarily research institutions. IIIT Delhi came much later. It's very modeled pretty much on IIIT Hyderabad. So our courses are offered by the research centers. And our faculty, we don't have departments. Again, it's very unique. No other college has this probably. We didn't want department because department creates those very strong silos, right? There's a very strong mindset of what a department means, HOD and such, becomes a very a bureaucratic thing that impedes many things. So we didn't want departments. We don't have departments even now. And also, as a research university, a professor gets attached to a research center based on their interest. It's not an organizational thing. A professor can be part of multiple centers. There's one center primarily they belong to, but they can be part of multiple centers. I'm attached to the Software Engineering Center. I'm also attached to the Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship. And I'm also attached to one of the translation centers, the Smart City Living Lab. So, in that model, the research centers offer courses. And for us, like from first 1.5 years, we have core courses in the 4-year program also. 5-year program is also BTech and research program, MS by research program. But even in the 4-year program, first 1.5 years, 3 semesters core courses, 4 semesters some core courses, 5th onwards complete electives. There are some combinations they have to meet, but for the 30 courses that they take from the 5th semester onwards, 4th little bit and definitely from 5th, they have about 2,000 courses to choose from. Because each research center offers 4, 5, 6 courses, and there are about 22 centers that we have.
Oh, okay.
And so the research-led model, the courses are coming from research centers, and like, say when we offer a course in NLP, it's offered by a professor that's got a phenomenal body of work in NLP research, right? Even if they're introducing NLP, even an introduction level course in natural language processing is offered by a professor that's very, very strong in research. And we have a culture of like extensive projects hands-on in the courses. The idea is not to train them for industry. The idea is that we believe that a lot of hands-on work. So we don't teach programming. Our students are probably the best Python programmers when they graduate in the country, especially for AML and such. They're probably the best programmers in the country. We don't teach Python. We teach only C in the first year. And the idea is to teach concepts. Probably nobody uses C in their life. But C is a good language to teach programming concepts. We teach only one language to teach them the programming concepts in the first semester. And then they learn. Because like if an NLP course is being offered or a machine learning course is being offered and there are projects and the projects have to be done in Python, they're expected to learn. If you teach a certain framework, math libraries, whatever, they're expected to go pick. Nobody teaches them. We have some tutorials which are their own seniors telling them. Our professors don't, the tutorials are not taken by our professors. Like I said, we have a very strong TA culture. TAs do the tutorials, even where it's required. Not all courses have tutorials. So, because they learn, there is a culture of doing, but they're doing by learning, not by somebody telling them. Right? The specific frameworks, programming, all that they learn and they do. They only taught the concepts in the class, not on how to do a Python program. So they're extremely resourceful. So that's our culture. So it's not that we want projects. That's not our focus. Learning by doing is our focus. And like, so in that process, a lot of hands-on activities. It's a very intense program. Everybody knows that. I mean, my son had an option between IIIT and BITS. He went to BITS. He knew, who's not in that academically inclined, that IIIT needs at least 2 to 3 times the effort compared to what he would do in BITS. And it's a well-known fact. 3 hours classwork for a course in a week. It will need at least 3 to 6 hours of additional work. Assignments and lab, not reading. Reading is again on your own time. So I don't think that model is that easily replicable. It is steeped in research.
Okay.
And because we're a research university, all our professors, today we rank among the top maybe 3 or 4 in the country for computer science research. So while the IIIT model is not replicable that easily because you have to be a research institution for that, which unfortunately, that's not a primary focus most of our institutions. The teaching is the focus, not research. But the hands-on model, we should adopt, but we should adopt it meaningfully. I mean, we can't just make a statement that we will do more hands-on. Then it will become again road-based learning. We will tell how to do the hands-on also. So the hands-on should be truly where we tap into. These are all smart kids, right? Any of our colleges, it doesn't matter if it's the best IIT or any other college, the kids are smart, right? We just have to kind of show them the way, nudge them a little bit. We have to build a culture where they explore and learn, which we don't, unfortunately, because again, our system has compulsions. If you don't do well, your university might kind of not give you the right ratings. You may not get NAC accreditation. So all those, unfortunately, those visible results matter. So it means you have to make them do well, make them score well in the exams. But yes, that's important because at the end of the day, the college also has to sustain. But along with that, we need to have a focus where we let them explore and build stuff. It should be, when we say project, it should not be, again, like I said, the natural way of doing it in our environment will be that also is taught how to do. We should treat them to get them to be resourceful, get them to tap into their own resourcefulness and do things. Let them explore. Support should be there. but not teach them how to do it, support them as they do it. That's what I think we need.
So one of the things, right, like recently there was this Reddy committee report which said, I think central government also approved, saying that I think it's better to enhance the existing colleges rather than creating new colleges and all that. But we do still see some colleges are coming and all that stuff. So I want like each one of your opinion on this one. Like, what is your take on it, right? Like to think about how to enhance and empower the existing colleges, or right, like is it good that we have to create a new bloodstream or something? Just want to understand your thought process on that.
See, I think we took the IT bandwagon a little too far nationally, and especially in the southern states, and especially our two states. I think, yes, there was a need, there was an opportunity in the 90s, and there was a need. But I think it became very, very kind of nobody guiding what the real need was. I mean, like if we have today only 15-20% of the graduating students placed, it is because there's a huge overcapacity. Somebody should have guided the process and said, like, this is what we need. And like, but I think somewhere there was aspiration, and like, so since we needed to do something quickly, I think it just went on very unchecked, and like a lot of colleges got opened. Of course, in the last 5-6 years, some cleanup has happened naturally, because like if you had capacity for, like, we just take this state, capacity of almost 200,000-250,000 seats, and only 100,000 are getting filled up. And there was a natural cleanup happening. Right? Many of the not so good colleges got, many shut down, many reduced their seats and such. So, but we could have avoided that, because that's not a present situation. That somebody starting a college and shutting down, and you can't shut down in a clean way. There are students currently. So that mess got created, but some cleanup is happening, has happened. But I think we definitely need fresh blood, but not more of what we have. We need very fresh thinking. Right. Again, I say there's a dichotomy here. Right. On one side, it's education. So it's education mandate. On the other side, it's a business also. Right. All said and done, it's a business. Somebody's investing money, time, effort. It's also a business. That balance is very hard to strike in the education environment. Like if you want to go for quality, you have to invest. Now, who's going to invest? Right. And when you look at it as a business, when you look at it as an educationist, you want to invest. But when you think of it as a business, where's the money going to come from? Right? Where do we put the money from, and how do we make the money? Right? Improving quality doesn't mean you're going to make money. The students might graduate and do well in life, may do well for society, for industry and such, but may not necessarily benefit the organization. So in that process, investment in quality education is very weak because there are no incentives. Now, if you look at what IIIT has done, it can't happen in the private sector. Who can come and say like today we can say like today we're outside the government. But government gave us 60 acres land, 2 buildings at that time. Between the two, it's almost like 500,000 square feet. In 98, built buildings. Now, imagine if somebody, like the same institution was mooted as a private institution, who's going to fund it? Right? So we have two examples in Hyderabad, right? ISB and IIIT. IIIT started in 98, ISB started in 2001. They first started around the same time. IIIT came up off the ground immediately because government said, like, we want it out this year itself, and then found the land with buildings and got it out kind of off the ground within a few months. ISB said, we're going to build a greenfield campus. They had a different vision for the institute. So they took 2 years to build it out. If not, they could have started in 99 also. They were ready in 99. It just took them 2 years, so 2001 is when they took the first batch in. But then ISB started off those days when college fees were like 40, 50,000, their fees was 10 lakhs. But their model allowed it, right? And there was no private player. It was a private institution, but no private player needing to profit from it. So for them, it was a pure non-profit institution, but it still had to support itself. So they had to charge 10 lakh fees, which was those days like astronomical. I don't know what IIM fees were, but I'm sure not no more than 1 or 2 lakhs at the time. And but then they needed that because they know the source. Because they didn't get the donors initially, which helped with the infrastructure part of it. Operation, they still need to. Today, it's 50 lakhs, probably one of the most expensive programs in the country. And but their model allowed them to charge more. And there was a way that can be recouped, and they didn't have a profit motive. They didn't need to make money because it's not it was a private university, but not a private institution in the sense like nobody needs to make money out of it. So, but it had support itself, and it was an expensive operation. IIIT was a more social, but then government invested a lot, like land and buildings upfront. Like so we didn't need to invest anything in capital; it came as a grant from the government. We can't create such an institution in the pure private setup. So there is a problem. We need quality, but how is that quality? First thing, we need people that want the quality, right? Yeah. Education is, which I'm sure there are some number, right? We need that first. And then a model on how are you going to support that efforts to create quality? Because it is cart before the horse. You have to create quality, you have to invest in it. It may take 5-10 years before there may be any returns at all. So I think it's a hard problem. It's very nice to say we need to invest in quality and but it's not an easy problem, especially in the private sector.
Since I'm a placement director, I'm asking the question relating to placements only. In 90s and in the beginning of 2000, the campus placement is like this, only paper-based, only quant, reason, verbal, correcting the papers, announce the results, that's all. After that, no, computer-based test, again, quant, reason, and verbal, again, shortlisting, and then. Thanks to TCS for introducing Code Vita, then the entire scenario changed to competitive coding. Thanks to Wipro introducing a concept known as the project-based learning through Talent Next program, that scenario changed. And thanks to pandemic, completely changed offline to entire online system, online ecosystem. Now, again, with this scenario, my question to all the panel members is, what may be the next step for the placement scenario? How it will be? Like internship, mentioned by Mr. Chekri about incubations. How it will go? How can you guide us?
I believe education, like I was telling some time back also, 21 years, all the things in the world around 21 years of for different reasons, that being the age is because mind and body is still developing. So we don't want to mess with the development. Put them in a job, a 9-to-5 job, we're messing with the development. So what's the hurry? Let them learn. It's like everything need not be towards a particular job or a skill. A lot of happens. In the pandemic, we realized one of the first things that hit us hard was we're a residential campus. Our students are on campus, and the first thing we realized was it was hard-hitting realization. Lot of learning happens outside the classroom in a campus like ours. Lot of learning happens outside the classroom. Now, a Coursera can teach probably, even if not as well, what's happening in the classroom. What about what's happening outside the classroom? A lot of peer learning happens. They're not just talking about movies and such when they're meeting wherever outside. And lot of learning happens outside the classroom, both soft and hard. The concepts and subject learning, and also a lot of the soft learning happens. So I think we shouldn't mess with that. I'm not a big fan of internships is one thing, but a job in the early ages is not a good thing. And thankfully things like visa and such, like Santosh pointed out, companies won't jump and take up that possibility, even if it might work for them. Which is good. And I also believe education need not have a very specific purpose. Education is education. So it's okay if they don't get a job. They did mechanical engineering, they didn't get a job in mechanical, they went to do something else, they became an entrepreneur selling food. It doesn't matter, right? I think there is a certain conditions that happen in those 4 years, right? They learn something, but it's not just the learning of those mechanical concepts or the subject and such. But there's a lot of things they learn to learn. It's a big learning. The whole IT industry depends on the fact that when they say they're looking at aptitude and such, it's not aptitude alone they care for. The ability to learn is the most important skill in IT industry especially. In other industries, maybe you get into one type of a factory and maybe it doesn't change a whole lot over a period of time, but IT industry changes every 5 years so much. And learning to learn is a big resource for anybody. If you have the ability to learn, you can do anything. If they're switching and becoming as a mechanical engineer, they're now suddenly deciding to go into healthcare. That's because the ability to learn is their primary skill. So they can pick up healthcare. They can pick up food business. They can pick up anything. So I think if we teach them to learn, I think that is their more lasting skill than the specific things they pick up. So yes, I think placements, there will be pressure always. There is pressure. I don't think when we had 20 colleges in the case, I remember when I went to a university college, there was no placement at all. We'd apply for all the exams and then go write and then find something. And so it's a process even then. When there were 20 colleges in the state, it was no different. And when there are now 300 colleges in the state, it's no different. So there will be a demand-supply gap always, in which means there will be pressure on placements. But I think as institutions, we can do the best we can to prepare them for their kind of careers. And not, yes, society, parents, everybody looks for, and the only indicator in any institution is the placement. But I think we should balance that. That is there, but also look at what kind of skills can we get them for life, not just for the first job. Like they say, like our current director, PJ Narayanan, says this all the time. We prepare our students for their last job. That's our man. That's our internal philosophy in the way we do. Like we put a lot of emphasis on human values. We do many things, and our emphasis on learning to learn. It's huge emphasis on learning to learn. Our whole model, like we don't teach Python, and yet they are the best Python programmers coming out in the graduating class in the country. Is because our emphasis on learning to learn, teaching them how to learn, and they learn also. So many things we do, like the phrase he uses a lot, which all of us kind of believe. We are preparing them for the last job, not for the first job.
This is about the finishing school. I'm more on the recruitment side, the placement side, where we are placing people into the company. And 70% of them they don't even know what they have written in their own resume. Because somebody else must have prepared their resume or some online resume. They just submit. And when you ask them the question of their own resume, they don't know. So is there anything that you would like to throw light on that you are doing that all can be done that will help solve this problem? And I'm not saying this that maybe at IIIT that's a different story that the strong candidates are in there, but institutions like ours, where 50-60% of the student body is like that. So is there any program that you are running?
I also tell when I meet kids, generally anybody, for advice and such, and when they show the resume, I tell them what is this unique in this resume that nobody in your class has or your batch has. Forget nobody in your batch has. Most likely 80% of the batch has the exact same resume. I've done this course, I've done this certification, I've built this small project. And I think Chakri rightly said, they should build a personal profile. I mean, not just do the same thing the whole batch is doing. Yes, everything they do, some others may also be doing. But they should have picked a combination that is unique to them. And that's very important, I think. But yeah, it's easier said than done.
The pace of world is changing so fast that unless students change their way of thinking, how the way they learn, they are going to be struggling as they go forward in life. So what are the experience that you all have? When changes, many of them have come by learn by rote when they come in. But they've now had to change. You all had made that big transition to learn by learning. And that's something I think we need to spread that skill of learn by learning and make it a part of the value system. What is the learning? I mean, your experience around that?
So there's one thing that we structured early on. I mean, before you and I joined, the institute had structured we had some phenomenally good faculty in the early days who went on to become directors and deans. So, and of course, Professor Rajedi, I mean, CMU. So his experience, I mean, when he became chairman, when government brought him in, he was already 65 years old. Today is 87 years old. And so all his experience, 40 years of experience in research in the US, and all that come into play. But one example of trying to do things differently, we do these IT workshops. And the idea is that all concepts from operating system to databases to web programming to many things are taught just by telling them to build something. You're building database, teach them just the basics of SQL and make them build a small SQL application. So different concepts are introduced in the first semester and second semester, the 2 IT workshops. And in the second year, when they do a database programming course, right, which goes into all the deeper concepts and such, they already know how to write a small database program. When they go into operating system, they already done something with shell scripting and such. When they go into any of those, the IT workshop introduces them, and they're all doing very minimal things are taught, and the whole thing is building something. And they build so I think that's one thing that unlearns them in terms of the road-based. They're all coming from the FITGI, Chaitanya, Narayana quota system, right? Which is all they've just been driven to answer multiple choice questions. So you have to unlearn that. So this IT workshop, I believe in a way, it's a bridge for us in the first year, where they unlearn, because here nobody's telling them what to do. You just taught them the basic SQL commands and given them a program, now go build it. Now you have to think, okay, something was taught, nobody told them how to do it. What was taught is what they need, but they have to apply that now to do it. I think very quickly, they kind of come out of that mindset into this mindset. There are other things also, I'm sure, but I think that's one particular thing that brings about that transition, and we do that in the first semester itself.